The rain poured relentlessly that evening, drumming against the roof of a small-town diner where a man named Ethan sat, lost in thought. His little girl, Lily, sat across from him, her small hands wrapped around a mug of hot chocolate. Ethan's eyes were distant, heavy with decisions he didn't want to make. He had been a single father for 3 years since losing his wife in a car accident, and though time had numbed the pain, it hadn't healed the emptiness that followed him everywhere. Beside him now sat the reason he kept breathing. Lily, a bright-eyed, curly-haired 6-year-old who saw the world with innocence and love, even when life had shown her lost too soon. But tonight was different. Tonight she had sensed something in her father, a storm even stronger than the one outside. It all began a few weeks earlier when Ethan met a woman named Grace. She worked at the library, gentle and kind, with a quiet smile that reminded him of the peace he once had. Grace wasn't like anyone he had met before. She didn't rush him to talk about his past, didn't try to fix what was broken. She just listened quietly, like she could hear the silence between his words. For the first time in years, Ethan laughed again. He found himself looking forward to mornings, to the thought of her voice, to the idea that maybe, just maybe, life could still offer him something beautiful. But as his feelings grew, so did his fear. You see, Ethan had promised himself he wouldn't let anyone replace Lily's mother. He was terrified that loving someone new would mean betraying the memory of the woman he once called home, so he kept Grace at arm's length, pushing her away even when every part of him wanted to hold on. Lily, however, noticed everything. Children always do. She saw how her father's eyes softened when Grace was around, how his voice calmed, how laughter slowly began to fill their small house again. And she loved Grace too, because Grace never tried too hard. She read Lily bedtime stories, taught her to draw, and listened to her endless stories about fairies and stars. Grace didn't force her way in. She simply loved them quietly, patiently. But one day everything changed. Ethan had gotten a job offer in another state. A new start, more money, and a chance to leave behind the painful memories of the past. To him it seemed like a logical decision. But to Lily it felt like the world was ending. She overheard her father talking on the phone that night, telling Grace he couldn't see her anymore, that they were moving away. Grace's voice cracked as she said, "If this is what's best for you and Lily, then I understand." The line went silent. Lily sat in the hallway, clutching her teddy bear, tears filling her eyes. She didn't understand why adults always let go of good things. Why did love always have to leave? The next morning, Lily refused to get dressed for school. She sat on her bed, her little legs swinging over the edge, eyes full of quiet rebellion. "Daddy," she said softly, "I don't want to move." Ethan sighed, kneeling in front of her. "Sweetheart, this is a good thing. We'll have a new house, a big yard, new friends." But Lily interrupted. "Will Grace come with us?" Ethan froze. "No, honey. Grace has to stay here." Her lips quivered. And then came the words that pierced through his heart like lightning through the night. "Then I'm not going." Ethan tried to reason with her, but she crossed her arms and whispered, "Choose her, Daddy, please, or I'm not going home." Those words echoed in the room, heavy and raw. For a long moment, Ethan just stared at his daughter. Behind her innocent eyes was a truth he hadn't been brave enough to face. Lily wasn't asking for another mother. She was asking for love. She wanted her father to be happy, to stop running from the past, to stop believing that moving forward meant forgetting. That night, Ethan sat alone, staring at an old photograph of his late wife. He remembered her last words before she passed. "Promise me you'll live. Ethan, don't let grief steal your smile." Tears filled his eyes as he whispered into the silence, "I broke that promise." The next day, Ethan drove through the rain, heart pounding as he reached the library where Grace worked. She looked up, surprised to see him soaked to the bone, eyes glistening. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" He took a deep breath. "I made a mistake," he said. "I thought moving away would fix everything. But all it would do is take away the one thing that's been healing us, you." Grace's eyes filled with tears as he continued. "I was scared, Grace, scared to love again. But my daughter, she reminded me that love isn't about replacing someone. It's about continuing the story they helped start." Grace walked around the counter slowly, her hands trembling as she reached for his. "Ethan," she whispered, "you don't owe me anything." He smiled softly. "No, but I owe myself a chance. And I owe Lily a home filled with love, not just walls and memories. At that moment, Lily ran into the library holding her teddy bear. She looked up at Grace and smiled. "Daddy chose you." Grace knelt down, tears streaming down her cheeks as Lily hugged her tightly. The three of them stood there, the rain falling softly outside, washing away years of pain, fear, and regret. From that day, life didn't become perfect, but it became real. Grace became a gentle presence in their lives, not as a replacement, but as a blessing. Ethan learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means finding peace in the memories while still daring to love again. And little Lily? She taught everyone what courage looks like, a child's pure belief that love, when chosen with the heart, can rebuild what grief once destroyed. So, if you're watching this story right now, take a moment to think about your own choices. Don't run from love. Don't let fear stop you from opening your heart again. Sometimes, the people who enter your life after the storm aren't meant to erase your past. They're meant to help you build your future. The sun peeked through soft clouds the next morning, painting the small town gold. Lily sat by the window, her teddy bear tucked in her lap, watching her father and Grace talk in the garden. It had been a week since that rainy day at the library, yet the warmth of it still filled their home. Grace's laughter blended with the sound of birds, and for the first time in years, Ethan smiled without forcing it. The walls that once echoed with silence now hummed with gentle life. The smell of pancakes, the sound of Lily's footsteps, and the melody of hope returning home. Ethan still carried the weight of the past, but it no longer crushed him. He realized grief doesn't fade because you forget. It fades because love gives it a place to rest. That evening, as the golden light dimmed, Lily ran into his arms, whispering, "Daddy, thank you for choosing her." He held her tight, tears glistening in his eyes. "No, sweetheart," he whispered. "You helped me choose love." Grace watched from the doorway, her heart swelling at the sight. She never wanted to replace anyone, only to be someone who stayed. Later they sat on the porch, the air filled with peace. "You know," Grace said softly, "your wife would be proud of you." Ethan nodded, looking up at the stars. "She'd be proud of us," he replied. And that night, as Lily fell asleep between them, holding both their hands, Ethan finally understood. Home wasn't a place, it was people who refused to give up on love. The little girl's choice had healed 3 hearts at once, proving that sometimes it takes a child's courage to remind grown-ups how to live again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional, life-changing stories that inspire love, faith, and second chances.